The battle for the 2 seed is tonight between the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars, but the war between these two teams is just beginning.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Seth Topal of Locked On Wild. Welcome to a special crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Stars. He's Joey Erickson, host of Locked On Stars, as we preview a matchup in the battle for the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. On today's episode, we will lay the groundwork for the opening round series between the Minnesota Wild and the Dallas Stars. We will take a look at how both teams are faring heading into the final regular season matchup of the year. And we'll look at the stakes in this matchup, as it likely will mean the team that hosts the opening round of the playoffs. As mentioned, a big one, maybe the biggest matchup between these two teams, as there is everything still to play for. And we welcome Joey Erickson into the show. And Joey, we have kind of had an inkling that this was going to be the opening round matchup for like 3 months. So yes. We have been plugged in enough to know this is likely how this was going to play out. And now this week officially found out that that was going to be the case. And now one final regular season matchup to determine most likely who hosts the opening round of the playoffs. So from a Stars perspective, how are you feeling heading into this final regular season matchup against the Minnesota Wild?
I would probably describe myself as pretty even keeled, just because the Stars have been rather inconsistent lately. And I would like to say it's because of the injuries that they have had over the last couple of weeks, really dating back to the Olympic break coming out of it. So it's just been a really intriguing last month or so for Dallas. Really up and down, a little inconsistent. Some of it's effort on some nights, some of it's just pure execution. But from most Stars fans, I would say they feel probably pretty comfortable with this matchup. Of course, historically speaking, over the last 5-6 years, the Stars have done good stuff and have taken care of business against Minnesota. But I'm sure we'll get into it later, that this is a very different Wild team. So I'm really looking forward to seeing these two teams battle. I really am. And it's kind of intriguing that they still have something to fight for before the real war begins with the final 4 games. And who knows, maybe who wins the matchup tonight ends up going on to secure home ice.
Just looking at the Stars a little bit, I know there have been players that have been in and out of the lineup. So what is the health situation for Dallas heading into this matchup? I know Mikko Rantanen has come back into the lineup. That's a big one, but looks like, at least according to Daily Faceoff, there are still a couple of players that are potentially up in the air.
Yeah, so head coach Glenn Goldson gave an update yesterday and mentioned the soonest that Roope Hintz and Sam Steele might play is the final 2 games of the regular season. And that was sort of promised to us a couple of months ago, but you can really never take your word for you can never really take the word of these coaches sometimes. I remember a couple of years ago, we heard Yanni Hakanpää was, day to day for literally 3 months. And then we found out that it was never an option for him to come back. And the Stars went all the way to the Western Conference Final that year. But that's good news. And I think they would like to get Hintz and Steele and some others into some games late, just to maybe work out some kinks, find what they have in terms of line combinations and whatnot. Rope's obviously a big component of this. He is, your number one center. He's kind of like maybe your 2 seed just because of how good Wyatt Johnston has been this year, but that's another conversation for another day. Radek Faksa, the Stars' kind of fourth line center. He's rather close to playing, and they feel like he's going to play within the next couple of days, actually. Not tonight against Minnesota. And Michael Bunting as well, who the Stars acquired at the deadline. They think he could potentially play against New York over the weekend. So it seems like everything's trending in the right direction, which is huge. And I've had this conversation. I'm sure maybe you've discussed this as a topic on your show, Seth, that I think it's more important for Dallas just to be fully healthy than maybe even having home ice advantage, right? You just want to have all your tools there, tools in the tool belt, and the results will be what they are.
Yeah, I 100% echo that, and I know the Wild have that sentiment as well, that they are really playing this as we need to be at 100% when this series starts. And so both teams in similar spots. So it is going to be interesting to see how this game is approached, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end. But I did want to ask you, you mentioned Wyatt Johnston. He was on my list of questions to ask here today. Unbelievable season for Johnston, especially on the power play.
Oh, yeah.
And I know special teams has been a major factor between these two teams in the postseason. How has Wyatt Johnston taken his game to the next level this year to allow him to just become a force, an unstoppable force on offense?
Yeah, I think it's helped playing with Mikko Rantanen. They have been the duo that has been kept together really all season long. I think it'd be silly to say that Mikko hasn't had an impact on his game, but we've known for a few years here in Dallas how special Wyatt Johnston can be, and he's really shown it. And you have to factor in over the last couple of seasons, there's usually previous seasons, he didn't get a ton of time on the number one power play unit. The Stars had a lot of good players like Mikhail Granlund. They had, Tyler Seguin and others that were taking up a lot of that time. This is really his first year. He is on the number one power play unit, and he just kind of sits in that slot area, which is sort of undefendable in a lot of ways. He has 26 power play goals, which lead the NHL. So I would probably say 18 of them have come in between the hash marks. The Stars like to go down to the goal line, and they just hit him in the middle of the box, middle of the diamond, whatever the PK is. And it's just one of those spots where it's just hard to defend. You kind of have to give up something, and teams give that up. And he's so quick to get that snapshot off and find the back of the net. But don't let the power play, points and goals fool you. He is incredible at 5-on-5. He's a phenomenal two-way player. He just has such a nose for the puck. He wins battles, and it's been really fun to just see his career grow. When he came in as a rookie, there wasn't really a whole lot about him, and then all of a sudden we're like, okay, maybe he'll stick around for 12 games and go back to juniors. Well, no, that was the case. Like, he played the whole season in Dallas. And I think Joe Pavelski and the leaders that the Stars have had around him have really helped mold him into such a mature player. He's 22 years old. And every year, look at his goals. Rookie year, 24, 32, 33. He's got 43 this year. So, and the points have also increased. So every year he's improving. That's what you want to see out of a young player. And it helps. He's always been in a good foundation with Dallas, for sure. It's nice to have good players around you, can kind of maybe extradite some of that learning curve as a young player in the NHL.
Final one for you, Joey, before we switch to the Wild side of things. Who has been the biggest surprise for the Stars this year outside of the usual suspects? You expect Jason Robertson is going to do what he does. I'm sure you expected to see a jump from Wyatt Johnston, maybe not to this level, but expected to see a jump from him. Who has been the biggest surprise for Dallas this year?
Well, it has to be Justin Ritzkovian, and Wild fans will get real familiar with him in the postseason because he's sort of a pest. That's kind of the moxie he has. He's not afraid to get in your grill as a smaller forward. And he's played with Mikko Rantanen and Wyatt Johnston, believe it or not. Rantanen has wanted to play with them. I think that shows you how impactful he's been with Dallas. And this was a player that we didn't really talk about coming to the year. If it wasn't for the injuries the Stars had at the beginning of the season, I don't think he makes the roster. But now he has 13 goals and 27 points. A really interesting story. He was undrafted. He went to Northeastern for 4 years, and he just works his bag off. He's kind of an energizer buddy and works extremely hard. He's had to earn everything he's got, and he's making it impossible for the Stars coaching staff to take him out of the lineup. And the fact that he has respect among Mikko and others, I think says a lot. So he's been the biggest surprise. And I think Wild fans are maybe going to hate him a bit because that's just the type of energy you have. And the Stars maybe have lacked that in previous years. So he's got a little arrogance to him. Sometimes you need that, especially at that stature. In order to make it in this league, sometimes you just got to believe you belong.
I'm going to have to put that pronunciation on a Post-it note and tape it to one of my laptop monitors. I'm so glad you said that before I had to. No, it does not. But, I was kind of wondering if he was going to be the answer to that question. So I'll keep a mental note to watch out for him throughout this series. All right, we're going to flip gears. I'm sure you've got some burning Minnesota Wild questions because I love how you teed it up that this is not the same Minnesota Wild team. Certainly some moves made at the deadline to add some teeth, or as I like to say, some brass knuckles. So we'll talk about all that as we continue today's crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Stars right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild and Locked On Stars is brought to you by Quo. Spring is a natural reset point, and if there is one thing that can quietly cost businesses money, it is messy communication. Missed calls, scattered texts, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communication. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your entire team share one business number so you never miss a call, text, or an opportunity. My favorite feature is AI summaries, which log every single communication. So if you have a few pieces of your office that are not able to make a particular call, you don't have to play telephone to tell them what happened and what they need to catch up on. These summaries will do that for you, and it keeps you a clear, concise log of all communication every step of the way. So make this the season no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/LockedOnNHL. That's QUO.com/LockedOnNHL. Quo. No missed calls, no missed opportunities. Today's episode also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for with skills, experience, and location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less time, less stress, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome back to today's crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Stars, parts of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Reminder, fans, with the playoffs looming, now is the perfect time to get in on the Everydayer Club and the all-access tiers for Locked On Wild and Locked On Stars, leveling up your Locked On experience all year long. Description and details in the show notes for today's episode, so make sure to check it out. Playoffs are literally 2 weeks away, so get in on the ground floor so you don't miss a minute of all of the additional content. All right, it's time for Wild questions. So,
Yes.
Joey, I'll give you the floor, and I'm an open book.
Well, this could be a loaded question right off the bat, so you may be able to take the whole segment and run with it. But yes, the Stars have maybe had the Wild's number over the last couple of season, maybe even in the playoffs. Let's include that. But we all know this Wild team's much different. If it is going to be different this year, if they are going to maybe get over this hump, so to speak, against the Stars, why is that? Why are the Wild primed and ready to do it?
That's a great question. I've got, I think I have two answers that I will go with here. The first is that for the first time in like 3 seasons, first time in 3 or 4 years, the Wild have a functional penalty kill. That is something that over the last 3 seasons, at least, they have not been able to say. They have had particular things that have masked some of the deficiencies on that unit. I know the year that the Wild played the Stars in the postseason, they got Vezina caliber goaltending from Filip Gustavsson, but they didn't really do much of the other things that you need to do in order to have a good penalty kill. They didn't win a ton of faceoffs, and they just didn't have the ability to consistently get the puck out of the zone. This year, they have done that, and I know the penalty kill is still sitting in the high 70s as far as percentage goes, but that's like a 13-14% increase over where it's been the last 2 years. It was near the bottom last year. It was near the bottom 2 years ago, near the bottom 3 years ago. So having a functional penalty kill is, I think, a big reason why we won't see that same level of terror that Dallas has inspired on the power play, especially. But I think this is the Quinn Hughes difference. Having a third superstar that they can put at their disposal, I think gives them a depth to the lineup that they haven't previously had. Not only do you have Kirill Kaprizov, who just continues to do Kirill Kaprizov things, you've got Matt Boldy, who has fully ascended, much like Wyatt Johnston has. It's going to be fascinating to watch those two go toe-to-toe this series as much as they do. But also having Quinn Hughes and the playmaking ability that he brings to the table has just taken this Minnesota Wild offense to a new level. Joey, it was a bottom 5 offense in the league before Quinn Hughes as far as 5-on-5 goals are concerned. The Minnesota Wild have been one of the best offenses in the entire NHL since he got here. And so that is, you think about the things that allows you. If you fall behind by a couple of goals, all of a sudden you have the confidence that you can get back into a game. If you get the early lead, you have the confidence that you can throw 3 or 4 goals on a team with the offense that the Wild have. So it just gives them kind of a dynamic that they haven't previously had. And I think that's another reason to have some confidence heading into this matchup and beyond for the Wild against Dallas this year.
This is another question that kind of just popped in my head, but I'm curious if maybe you have an answer. I'm sure you do, but better insight, especially. The Stars have sort of had, it feels like, a different approach and a different style, really, under Glenn Gulletson. But with the influx of these new players like Quinn Hughes, and of course, Hines, I guess, is his first kind of full season at the helm. Have you noticed maybe just a change, maybe, I guess, in the mindset? Maybe there's more belief in the room, whereas, maybe in years past, there was kind of that mental block. And I'd say the Stars sort of had one with the Oilers, or there just seemed to be a mental block where they couldn't get over that hurdle. Do you think there's maybe a shift in the culture? Maybe, I know that's kind of a buzzword, but within the dressing room that, truly believes now that they have a team that can compete against the best in the league.
Yeah, and I think we have seen a change in that regard since Quinn Hughes came here, certainly. But I think one of the things that I like most about what John Hines brings to the table is that anytime this team has faced any level of adversity, he has done a really good job of getting everybody back to center. Now, the Wild haven't faced a ton as far as the adversity goes. They didn't lose back-to-back games in regulation until this, like after the month of October, which was mostly a disaster. They didn't lose back-to-back games in regulation until like late February. Like they were so good at any time they suffered a loss of being able to just get back to where they need to get to. And I think we got to give him credit for October too. Like, as much as that month just was not what the Wild were hoping it would be, they didn't panic. They just got to work. They got things fixed. They got things adjusted, and they were one of the best teams in the league in November. They've been one of the best teams in the league since. So I think we got to give John Hines credit for getting this team back on track, keeping them on track through a really grueling, long season. Like the truncated season with the Olympic break, I think we've seen it for Dallas, Colorado, and Minnesota. Like, these teams have been pushing so hard to this point in the year that they all kind of hit the wall and were like, well, we've got everything clinched. Like, now let's
what now?
Yeah, let's take a step back and try to get ourselves fully rested and fully healthy. But I think he does a good job of just getting this team back up off the mat anytime they have suffered any sort of adversity. The Wild had a stretch where they lost games back to back to Vancouver. They lost to Winnipeg. They lost to the Devils, who were all pretty bad teams at that point. And he was able to get them back up. March didn't go the way I think a lot of people were hoping it would have, but 4-0 in April so far, and they look like a completely different team. So he has had the ability to get them back on track, and that's the mark of, I think, a good coach, is just being able to get everybody back to where they need to be and just continuing to push.
Yeah, Minnesota Wild winners of 4 in a row going into tonight. The Stars having a bit of a rocky last month or so, and it sets us up for a very intriguing matchup tonight with home ice advantage still up for grabs, the final 4 games of the regular season. We're going to get into tonight's game and maybe even give you a little tease of this 7-game series upcoming here in a couple weeks, and we'll do that in just a moment. Today's crossover edition of Locked On Stars and Locked On Wild is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters. Every matchup is magnified. Every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Yes, that's right. The app makes it so easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, maybe like Anthony Edwards. Is that a star? I think so. Role players, even key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. FanDuel is the place to be. Get in on the action right now. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game.
Final segment of today's crossover edition of Locked On Wild and Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And, I teased it, Joey, at the beginning of the show, the battle for the 2 seed going on right now. But this is just the first shot across the bow.
Yes.
Before we get to the inevitable war between these two teams that will be going on in round 1 of the postseason. So just looking at this game, first off, I'll ask you right off the bat, do you feel like home ice advantage still means as much as it used to? Considering just how much, how many games are stacked together, what teams are looking to do. When you get to be a good team, it doesn't seem to matter if you win on the road or at home. Like, what does home ice mean to you at this point compared to what it was?
So I guess the simple answer would be no, it doesn't matter, but it's sort of like, angel and devil on your shoulder, because when I think about game 7, that's when I would say home ice advantage matters. But in the first 6 games, I'm not really going to care. And I always go into a series under the impression you're going to have to win at least 2 road games. Just that's probably going to be necessary for you to win. And yes, it's a fascinating battle within my brain. Does it really matter? Yes, no. A home game 7 would be nice. All these things sort of rattle around, and it's just it's really tough to come up with I guess a right answer. I don't know if there is. I think what's interesting, these two teams are some of the best on the road this season. Stars got 22 wins, or 22-9-8, and the Wild are 23-11-4. So they're very balanced. And that's what you'd expect out of 2 of the top 5 teams in the NHL. So I'm really fascinated to see how both teams kind of play this. Is it going to be, I guess, maybe an atmosphere of each team trying to make a statement? Like, hey, like, get ready. It is going to be a war. This is going to be the shot heard around the Western Conference, I suppose. Is this going to be really like a statement game for either Minnesota or Dallas? Or is it just, 2 teams that, I'm sure there's going to be some emotions and whatnot. It's a Central Division game. They don't like each other. We know that. Or is it just going to be kind of like maybe a stalemate to some degree and be like, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Right. I don't know what we're going to get. And the Stars have seen the Avalanche recently, and those games have been great, but not a whole lot has happened in them. So I'm wondering if we're going to get some of that, where it's like, it's going to be fun watch, but maybe it's 2 teams holding their cards close, so to speak, before they truly show their hand.
It is really fascinating because, and I think this is because these 3, the Wild, the Stars, and the Avs, because they have been near the top of the list in the NHL for most of the season, it does really feel like when you come toe to toe, like there's a little bit of like, just, I think of running into like a rival in the hall in like high school, and you kind of like, you see him from far away and you kind of give him that look. And you're like, you're just trying to size each other up without doing too much. Like, you don't want to make too much of a scene. And all 3 of these teams are just, they're in spots where it's like, we know, even if you don't have home ice, that there are ways. These 3 teams have ways to win. There are ways to win on home ice, on the road. I think everybody just is kind of like, let's just get to the playoffs and let's get those going.
Yeah. Amen. I think I've been ready for that since February, and I'm sure Stars players feel the same way. Because there's just been nights where maybe the Wild have suffered from this too, or it just seems like, I don't want to say uninterested, but there just seems to be that lack of juice from Dallas on some nights against certain opponents. And I try to put myself in that situation. If I was Matt Duchene, I'd probably be thinking the same thing. You know what? Am I really going to go 150% tonight against the New York Islanders on a Tuesday when we know we're going to be in this huge series against Minnesota in a couple of weeks? Now, I would love to maybe we can maybe dive into this a bit, because I kind of did this as maybe a little tease with my listeners. Like, where do you think each position group has an advantage between these 2 teams? Because I said it really is a 50-50 coin flip for me, the series overall. It is 50-50 between these 2 sides. And if you had to maybe give an advantage between Dallas, like position groups, maybe even special teams, like kind of where'd you go? If we went up front, I think fully healthy, 2 teams fully healthy, maybe bias. I think the Stars maybe a slight edge. Defensively, think it's really close. I think Hughes, he puts them over, and don't forget about the Brodins of the world. Like, let's be fair to those guys, and Spurgeon too. Great players. Goaltending, I give it to the Wild. I know Jake, Otter, he has the experience, and he's been great against the Wild too in his career. He obviously likes playing against them. He's a Minnesota boy. But if we're just going off this regular season, Gustavsson and Wallstedt have clearly been better. So I'm curious how you would kind of line it up if you had to maybe give some advantages, because I think it's really tough. Slim margins in the series.
Yeah, it is very, very thin between these two teams as far as the differences, which is why I guess I feel like it's going to come down to like third or fourth line between these two teams. Like, is that crazy to say? Like, all the firepower that these two teams have, top of the lineup. And actually, I think the area where the Stars have maybe the biggest advantage in this series is down the middle. I think at the center position is probably the spot where they have the biggest, like, noticeable difference as far as the lineup goes. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right on. As far
if
as
I was
defense,
a Wild fan, I'd probably be saying the forwards are about. I'd probably be saying the same thing. I think it's the advantage. So
and it's like there are some guys that have gotten some really good stretches here lately for the Wild. Like Ryan Hartman is on an absolute heater. Vladimir Tarasenko has been good, and that's what you got to get to kind of narrow that gap. Like you got to get those guys to really stand on their heads and elevate their game, so that you can contend with the Robertsons, the Johnstons, the Rantanens, and guys like Matt Duchene, Jamie Benn. Like, I would give Dallas the edge as far as the top six, as far as the lineup goes. I'd give the edge to the Wild as far as the defense goes. Being able to play Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin as your second pair, like, come on, that's something else. And then, you could flip a coin 10 times. It'd probably be heads 5 times, tails 5 times as far as the goaltending goes. Both really, really solid. Like, it's going to come down to which team is able to find that little spot in the armor and hit that over and over and over until the other side caves.
Yeah, just chip away. Just chip away until it finally cracks. So I'm just fascinated. I really am, and I know these two teams don't like each other. I know the fan bases don't like each other that much either in certain circles of the internet world. But I'm gonna really enjoy this one. I truly am. So, and I like a Gustavsson Otter, kind of showdown. Like, Otter hasn't had a good regular season, but he turns up when he sees that Wild logo. He seems to turn up. So, like, can you flip the switch, Otter? Like, can you do it? Because you haven't been great this year. And as you mentioned, like, Gustavsson in that, I guess the last series, like, played really well against Dallas. Stars had to earn it. Outside of the, and with the special teams, like, I've always made the joke, death taxes, Stars power play scores against Minnesota. Like, that's kind of a thing, but maybe that's, it's time for a change at some point. If you're Minnesota, like, you can't just keep taking it. So they're going to be ready. And it'll be a really, really fun series. And I don't think we should beat the dead horse, because we're going to have to do this again. We're going to have to meet again and do another show in a couple of weeks to get our respective audiences ready to go for it. So it'll be awesome.
Yeah. This is the warm-up tilt before the 12-round heavyweight bout. And I guess I'm just excited that the entirety of the NHL world is going to be watching, because this is, in my humble opinion, the most compelling first-round series that we'll have.
Yeah.
Because of Gary Bettman's stupid playoff format.
It's sad. I mean, it's so bad. I mean, come on. These teams should be meeting in the second round at least. But that's the NHL. They love their first round series. They love them. Yeah. I love them. And the Stars they've done this 3 years in a row, essentially. So it's just,
well, We'll find out who is left standing after the first round of the playoffs. But for now, just the one game to determine likely who ends up getting home ice advantage in round one. Listeners, we will, of course, have you covered every step of the way. So make sure to follow Locked on Wild and Locked on Stars. And make sure to hit the like button on today's video as well. We've got you covered with this series and these teams every step of the way, with new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.